My wife and I became secret multimillionaires. Our greedy family thinks we're still broke. Our entire life is a performance. We drive a beat-up Corolla to family dinners, but a Maserati is hidden in a private garage. We wear thrift store clothes in public, but our closet looks like a Gucci showroom. The act was perfect, until my wife's own mother announced she was taking out a second mortgage to save us from ourselves. Now, the guilt is eating us alive, and we are one family dinner away from the entire multi-million-dollar lie exploding in our faces.
Hey, story lover. Welcome to the Narrative Hub, Reddit Stories. Believe me, this adventure gets wild, but it's only epic with you. Seriously, you make this possible. Want more stories? Greater adventure? Smash subscribe right now. Smash like. Comment below. Let's go.
I gripped the steering wheel of our rusted 2008 Corolla, the leather peeling under my fingernails. Next to me, Emma Moore was hyperventilating, staring at a text message on her cracked iPhone 7, a prop we kept specifically for these Sunday tortures. We were parked 2 blocks away from her mother's house, the engine idling with a rattle that sounded like a dying lawnmower. We had to park here. If we parked any closer, her brother, Kevin Harris, would spot the pristine tires I'd accidentally put on the junker last week and start asking questions. Kevin smelled money like a shark smelled blood in the water, and right now, Emma and I were bleeding. "She's actually doing it, Ryan," Emma whispered, using my name like a curse. "My mother is at the bank right now. She thinks we're drowning in debt because I told her we couldn't afford to fix the radiator. She's mortgaging her paid-off house to give us 40 grand. I slammed my hand against the dashboard. Dust motes danced in the sunbeams cutting through the dirty windshield. This was the lock of our situation. We had created a prison of poverty to keep the vultures away, but we had done too good a job. Now, the pity was turning into hazardous intervention. "We have to stop her," I said, my voice low. "But we can't just tell her we're worth $20 million. You know what happens then." Emma looked out the window, her eyes hard. "If we tell her, Kevin finds out. If Kevin finds out, he sues us for that loan he gave us 5 years ago, claiming equity in a company he never touched. Nicole Martin, your sister, will suddenly need help with her 3 kids' private school tuition. They'll tear us apart bone by bone to get to the marrow." "So we continue the lie," I said, shifting the car into drive. "We go in there, we eat the dry turkey, and we convince Barbara Gonzalez that we found a solution. A miracle job, a bonus, anything to stop that mortgage." But as we pulled up to the peeling white siding of Barbara's house, I had a sinking feeling in my gut. The stock of this situation was rising. We weren't just fighting pity anymore. We were fighting an active financial suicide mission launched by a mother who loved us too much and a brother-in-law who didn't love us at all. Walking into that house was like stepping onto a stage where everyone knew their lines except us. The air smelled of pot roast and judgment. Kevin was already there, sitting on the recliner like a king on a throne, holding a beer he hadn't paid for. He looked me up and down, his eyes lingering on my Walmart flannel shirt. "Rough week at the plant, Ryan Lewis," Kevin sneered, taking a swig. "I heard they're cutting hours. You need me to float you a 20 for gas." I forced a smile, the muscles in my jaw aching. "We're managing, Kevin, thanks." "Managing?" Kevin laughed, turning to Nicole, who was busy critiquing Emma's shoes. "Did you hear that? They're managing. That's code for we're eating ramen 3 times a day." Nicole Martin didn't even look up. "Those boots have a hole in the sole, Emma. Honestly, it's embarrassing. I have some old pairs I was going to give to Goodwill, but, well, beggars can't be choosers." I felt Emma stiffen beside me. I reached out and squeezed her hand, the hand that just last night was wearing a diamond ring worth more than this entire neighborhood. Today, it was bare. We walked into the kitchen where Barbara was slamming pots around, a martyr in a floral apron. "Mom, don't," Emma started, but Barbara spun around, tears in her eyes. "I signed the preliminary papers, Emma," Barbara sobbed, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "I can't watch you live like this. It's done. The bank releases the funds on Tuesday. You're going to pay off your debts and you're going to start over." The room went silent. The ticking of the wall clock sounded like a bomb countdown. Tuesday. We had 48 hours. Mom, you can't, Emma pleaded, her voice rising. We don't need it. Ryan got a promotion. Kevin appeared in the doorway, leaning against the frame, his eyes narrowing. A promotion? Since when? Last week he was crying about layoffs. It came through yesterday, I lied, my heart hammering against my ribs. Management position, double the salary. Kevin didn't buy it. I could see the gears turning in his head. He was the barrel of this gun. If he sensed a lie, he'd dig. And if he dug, he'd find the offshore accounts, the tech buyout, the real estate portfolio. Double the salary. Kevin stepped closer, invading my personal space. Show me the offer letter. It's verbal, I said, standing my ground. Paperwork comes Monday. Bull, Kevin spat. You're lying to stop her from helping you because you have too much pride. You'd rather let your wife walk around in holes than accept charity. He poked me in the chest, a hard, disrespectful jab. You're a failure, Ryan, and you're dragging this family down. It took every ounce of self-control not to laugh. I wanted to pull out my phone, log into my banking app, and show him the $7,400,000 sitting in the checking account alone. I wanted to tell him that the plant I worked at was actually a shell corporation for my patent holding company. I wanted to tell him that I could buy his life, burn it down, and buy it again without denting my interest payments. But I didn't. I swallowed the rage. We aren't taking the money, Barbara. It's not up to you, Barbara shouted, slamming a spoon on the counter. I'm doing this, and Kevin is going to manage the funds for you to make sure you don't blow it. The blood drained from my face. Kevin is what? Emma asked, her voice barely a whisper. I'm taking power of attorney over the loan, Kevin smirked, crossing his arms. Mom doesn't trust you too with that kind of cash. I'll dole it out as you need it. Groceries, rent, bills. You bring me the receipt, I cut the check. This was it. Hook 6 had just walked into the room. The ultimate betrayal. They weren't just trying to help, they were trying to own us. They wanted to infantilize us, strip us of our autonomy, and place us under the thumb of the greediest man I knew. I looked at Emma. The look in her eyes had changed. The fear was gone, replaced by something colder, something dangerous. We're leaving, Emma said, grabbing her purse. If you walk out that door, Kevin yelled after us, Mom signs the final papers first thing Monday morning. Don't think we won't save you from yourselves. We didn't speak until we were back in the Corolla, driving away from the suffocating suburbs and toward the city skyline. We drove past the shabby apartment complex we used as a mail drop. We kept driving, up into the hills, through the gated community, and finally pulled into the driveway of a modern, glass-walled fortress overlooking the city. The garage door opened, revealing the Maserati MC20 and Emma's G-Wagon. We parked the rusted Corolla in the corner. Like a dirty secret. Inside, the house was silent and cool. I walked to the wet bar and poured 2 fingers of whiskey, an 18-year-old single malt that cost more than Kevin's car. They're going to trap us, Emma said, packing the living room floor, kicking off her cheap boots to reveal perfectly pedicured feet. If Mom takes out that loan and gives it to Kevin, we can't stop it without revealing everything. And if we reveal everything... They sue, I finished. They guilt, they leech. But we can't let Mom lose her house, Emma said. Kevin will drain that account dry in 6 months. He'll buy a new truck, go on business trips, and claim it was all for our benefit. Mom will be destitute. I took a sip of the whiskey, the burn clarifying my thoughts. We need to kill the narrative, I said. We need to destroy the idea that we are broke, but we need to do it in a way that humiliates Kevin so badly he never asks for a dime again. How? I walked over to the window, looking out at the city lights. We lean into the lie. We let them think they've won. We let them set up the intervention. And then, I turned back to her, a wicked grin forming. We execute the Trojan horse. The plan was risky. It required timing, precision, and a stomach of steel. Sunday night turned into Monday morning. We didn't sleep. We spent the night moving assets, making calls to our lawyer, and setting up the trap. Monday morning, Barbara texted, I'm at the bank. It's done. Dinner tonight. Kevin has the check, don't be late. The dinner. The barrel of the gun was pressed against our foreheads. We arrived at Barbara's house at 6:00 p.m. sharp. This time, the atmosphere was different. It wasn't just a family dinner, it was a sentencing hearing. Nicole was there with her husband, looking smug. Kevin was at the head of the table, a thick envelope sitting in front of him. We sat down. The plates were paper. Kevin had probably told Barbara to save money on dish soap. "We're doing this because we love you," Barbara started, her voice trembling. She looked aged, tired. The weight of the mortgage was already crushing her, but she believed she was a savior. Kevin placed his hand on the envelope. $40,000, he announced. "This is your lifeline, but as discussed, you don't touch a penny of it. I pay the landlord directly. I pay the utility company. You two are on an allowance." He slid a piece of paper across the table. "Sign this. It gives me full access to your current accounts, too. We need to audit your spending. No more avocado toast, Ryan." Nicole snickered. "It's for the best. You two are clearly incompetent." I looked at the paper. It was a voluntary conservatorship agreement. They weren't just taking the loan money, they were taking everything. If I signed this, Kevin would legally have access to see our current accounts. He would see the millions. He would drain it before we could stop him. "I'm not signing that," I said calmly. "Then you get nothing," Kevin slammed the table. "And Mom is stuck with a debt she can't pay because you're too proud." "Kevin," I said, my voice dropping an octave, "open the envelope." Kevin blinked. "What?" "The envelope with the bank check. Open it." "I know what's in it," he spat. "Humor me." Kevin rolled his eyes, tore open the seal, and pulled out the cashier's check. He waved it in the air. 40 grand, happy." "Read the pay to the order of line," I said. Kevin looked down. He squinted. Then he froze. His face went from red to a sickly shade of pale gray. What is this?" "Read it," I commanded. "Pay to the order of Ryan Lewis," Kevin stammered. "Wait, no, this isn't the loan check." "No," I said, leaning back in my rickety chair. "It's not." I reached into my pocket, the pocket of my thrift store jeans, and pulled out a crumpled receipt. I tossed it onto the table. "That is the receipt for your mother's mortgage," I said. "I paid it off this morning, in full, including the early termination fees." The silence in the room was deafening. You could hear a pin drop on the linoleum. "You, what?" Barbara gasped, clutching her chest. "I went to the bank this morning," I continued, my voice steady, gaining speed. "I spoke to the branch manager. I told him there was a mistake. I wrote a personal check for the entire balance of your house, Barbara. You don't have a mortgage anymore. You own it free and clear again." "But," Nicole stammered, "with what money, you can't even afford tires." "That check in Kevin's hand," I pointed. "That's not a loan. That's a cashier's check I had drawn up today from my petty cash account. It's for $40,000. I stood up, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. The act was cracking. The mask was coming off. "I was going to give that to you, Kevin," I lied. "To help you start that business you're always talking about, since you're so concerned with family finances." Kevin's hands were shaking. He looked at the check, then at me, then at the check. The zeros were real. The watermark was real. "But," I snatched the check from his hand, "since you think I'm incompetent, I guess I can't be trusted to make investments." I ripped the check in half, then in quarters. I dropped the confetti onto his empty plate. "We aren't broke," Emma said, standing up beside me. Her voice was strong, regal. She wasn't the cowering daughter anymore. "We sold our software company 3 years ago. We have more money than everyone in this room combined, multiplied by 10. "Bull," Kevin whispered, but his eyes were wide with terror. "Check the public records," I said, "or just look out the window." I hit a button on my key fob in my pocket. From the street, the distinct guttural roar of a Maserati engine came to life. I had engaged the remote start on the car I'd parked 3 blocks away, but the sound carried. "We live quietly because we wanted to see who you really were," I said, looking around the table at the stunned faces. We wanted to know if you loved us or if you just loved pitying us. And this week, you proved that you don't just want to help, you want to control. Barbara was weeping now, but it wasn't tears of joy. It was shock. Why didn't you tell me? Because of this, I gestured to Kevin, who was staring at the torn check like it was a dead relative. Because the moment money is involved, you people turn into monsters. You tried to trick us into a conservatorship, Kevin. Do you know how illegal that is? My lawyer does. Kevin paled. I was just trying to help. You were trying to steal, I corrected, and now you're done. I looked at Barbara. Your house is paid for. Consider it a parting gift. But we're done with the Sunday dinners. We're done with the coupons. And we are definitely done with the guilt. I took Emma's hand. We walked to the door, the silence heavy and thick behind us. Wait, Nicole cried out, her tone suddenly sweet, desperate. Ryan, Emma, wait. You can't just leave. We're family. I paused at the door. I looked back at them, the vultures, the judges, the saviors. We know, I said. That's why we're leaving. We walked out into the cool evening air. We didn't walk to the Corolla. We walked 3 blocks down to the Maserati, the streetlights reflecting off its midnight blue paint. I opened the door for Emma. She slid in, looking back one last time at the house that had been her prison. As I revved the engine, I saw the curtains twitch in Barbara's living room. They were watching. Where to? I asked. Emma smiled, a genuine free smile. Anywhere, just drive. We had blown it all up. The secret was out. The family was shattered. But as I merged onto the highway, the city lights blurring into streaks of gold, I realized something. We hadn't lost a family. We had escaped a cage. The phone in my pocket buzzed. I glanced at the screen. It was a text from Kevin. Hey man, about what happened. Let's talk. I have a business idea that could really multiply that capital. I laughed, handed the phone to Emma, and she tossed it out the window. It skittered across the asphalt, shattered, and was gone. We were free. And for the first time in years, the cereal we bought tomorrow was going to be the name brand.